All right, so today I'm going to model how to annotate a text. The first thing we want to remember is that annotations are a way to show our thinking as we read. So I'm going to be annotating the text My Father's Voice by Tom Romano. While I'm annotating, the first thing I want to do is set my purpose. I know that my purpose is to determine the mood of the story. So, to determine the mood of the story, I'm going to look for sensory details. So, I'm going to look for descriptions that match up with the five senses: sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell. And that's going to help me figure out the mood of the story. So, that's what I'm annotating for. I'm going to read the first passage and then I'm going to show you my annotations. I remember my father calling my name on summer evenings when I was a boy in the late 1950s in northeastern Ohio. With neighborhood kids, I played wiffle ball in the yard behind Doc Steer's office. Night fell fast, and sweat dried cold in the back of our necks. Stars appeared in the darkening sky. Lightning bugs pulsed a few feet off the ground. It was a magic time without daylight when a wiffle ball moved like a Whitey Ford fastball. So the first thing I'm going to look for here are some sensory details. So I notice that there's this sentence here: night fell fast and sweat dried cold on our backs. So the night fell fast. I'm going to highlight that as yellow because that's something I can see. They're describing how it came quickly. So I'm going to write, describes how quickly night came. I can see this. I'm using the comment section here. If I was writing on the text, I might draw an eye or something like that as a symbol for what I can do. Sweat dried cold on the backs of our necks. I can feel that feeling, something that I've experienced. So I'm going to put that there. We can feel that, feel the cool coming as day ends. So I can put some ideas there. I can also say stars appeared in the darkening sky, lightning bugs pulse on a few feet off the ground. These really great descriptive details are also things that I can see as we go. So I'm going to use the same color because it's a real visual effect. Oh, I'm just going to change that to match. So here we go. So this is, again, I can see the contrast of the light and the dark. So it's not enough just to highlight things, but instead I want to also make notes of my thinking, and you can see that through the comments section. It was a magic time without daylight. The word magic, I'm going to highlight that little phrase there, magic time without daylight, because you can feel that sense, like it's that sense that something exciting is happening. So that's that feeling that without the daylight, we know that it is that kind of exciting time. I may also include not just what I'm feeling as I read this, but also my connections that I have. So, I remember that time when I myself was young and would be outside playing after dark, and it felt like something special was happening. So we found some good sensory details here. And then, let's take a look at the next paragraph. We had all promised to be home before nightfall, but no one was willing to break the spell. We played on with shouts and giddiness at the futility of catching and hitting in the growing dark. We knew in our bones that there was something more important going on than the game. No one wanted to let it go. Our play was summer and friendship and a tad of rebellion to be outside in the descending night beyond the time our parents wanted us home. So you'll notice that, in the previous paragraph, it mentioned the word magic, and now it's mentioning the word spell. So there's a repetition in the theme of the words, the break the spell. So I'm going to include that in my highlighting as well. And I'm just going to note that they repeat similar words. So they repeat similar words, magic and spell. This creates a feeling. It's a sensory detail as well. We played on with shouts and giddiness. So you can almost hear that, when kids are outside and they're playing and they're having a good time, you can hear that sound of joy, that sound of laughter. So I'm going to highlight that as well. And I'm going to just put it's a hearing detail. Partly we hear it because we connect to that idea of, kids outside playing. So I might say connection. I've heard neighborhood kids playing outside. It is always joyful. So we've got that there. And again, the descending night, right? We have that in yellow above. So we have that repetition of nightfall coming, and we can see that detail. So we can see that nightfall is coming. All right, I'm going to read the next paragraph, and what I would love for you to do is, as I read it, look for a sensory detail that you can highlight on your own. The first call came. My father's voice, short, booming, unmistakable. Tom, my father's voice. No trace of an Italian accent. He'd been in America since 1914, when he left Nola, a village near Naples. He, then a child of 9. My father's voice, still strong at 54 years old, calling from behind the screen door at the top of the fire escape on the porch of our apartment, over his tavern and bowling alleys. My father's voice rising into the night sky, carrying over the rooftop alleys and neighbors' yards to land in my ears where I played with the friends in the yard behind Dr. Steer's office. So take a moment, look and see what sensory details that you can find there. Is there something you can hear or see or visualize, something you can smell or taste out of that passage? The sensory details that I chose here is the piece where they describe my father's voice, short, booming, and unmistakable. That you can hear that idea of the father calling home his son. So we can hear the details of the father's voice. As I think about that, he's calling from behind the screen door. His voice carries, so we know that it's loud. We know that it's rising, and so some of those verbs there I can also highlight. And I'll highlight those in the same color that I used before, just to show that they're connected. All right, as we read on, I'm going to read a couple passages. As I read on, I'd like for you to just try and highlight a couple sensory details. I ran all the way home. Took 20 seconds, 30s, tops. I reached the fire escape and looked up. My father's figure did not darken the screen door, but warm yellow light emanated from the apartment. He'd worked hard to be successful in America, and like the Italian accent he left behind, as a young learner of English, he also left behind much of his ethnicity. I once asked an uncle of mine, Gigi Charavelli, my father's brother-in-law, who lived to be 93, why he'd come to America when he was 18. Why I come across, Uncle Gigi said. Same reason everybody come across. You make a better living, a better home, a better life. That's what my father had done. It's been many years since I'd heard my father's voice, but writing this, I hear it now. My father's voice at twilight on a summer's evening in small town America. My father's voice calling me home. So as I go through here, there's a few things that I might have highlighted as sensory details. So hopefully you did the same as you read. And the first thing that I would say is I can see this very visual detail. My father's figure did not darken the screen door, but warm yellow light emanated from the apartment. So this really visual detail is quite helpful, because if they'd said he was darkening the screen door, it would change the mood of the piece. It would seem like the father was mean or scary, but here it's a warm yellow light is emanating. So the warmth of that light is coming out from the room. So that's a really important visual detail. So we can see the warmth that surrounds the father. That helps to show us that relationship between the father and the son, and it helps to set the mood. And then here, that's what my father had done. It's been many years since I'd heard my father's voice, but writing this, I hear it now. My father's voice at twilight on a summer's evening in small town America, my father's voice calling me home. This is a really great sensory detail because we can see that, he misses his father. He's nostalgic for his father's voice, and we can hear that kind of magic, right, that happens at twilight. So, and we can connect back to those initial words of spell and magic. So I would suggest taking a moment, pausing the video, rereading the story, and thinking, how do these details that we've just annotated help to develop the mood? Remembering that the mood is the feeling a piece of literature has.